Welcome to the Hagen-Renaker channel. Collectors are invited to learn about how a ceramic edition is developed. Today, we look at production work, design, mold making, pouring, and demolding. Hagen-Renaker, Tennessee started with a fan favorite mold, the miniature head-up horse number 429. We are calling the new Fjord version the Fjord 29. This greenware raw clay casting was modified by Christina. The technique of modifying raw castings in the horse hobby is called clay body custom. The casting was bisque fired in the kiln to make it strong enough to withstand the molding process. Here is the bisque next to a regular 429 in test red done. The plaster production mold layout for 429 was used to design the tooling of Fjord 29. The completed mold clay-up of Fjord 29, ready for mold soap and the first plaster pour. Next is the first plaster section cured, soaped, and ready for the final plaster pour. These horses come out of a two-piece mold, which is a testament to the engineering expertise of the original Hagen-Renaker mold makers.
Hey Hagen-Renaker fans! Today we're going to pour the very first of a new old design, the number 429 standing horse in miniature. Many years ago, I had wanted to test this in red done. This was 2019. And ever since then, this color has kind of haunted me. I've kind of wanted to make more of this. So as you can see, we've modified the mane and the leg thickness. The hooves have been made pony, sized and scaled. This is a draft pony. And here is all that's left of our original. It's just a head. The molding process is brutal on bisque. I got 4 production molds off of the bisque modified master. And unfortunately, that's it. That's all it's going to yield until I can get a scan done. So what we need to do next, we have to put this little guy back together. This is our first dry production mold. As you can see, it's pretty messy, and I left a little bit of paper on there from the mold boards. These are called band straps. They're just giant rubber bands. The first one is going to be poured in white. I have other tinted slips available, but instead we're going to get the clean out casting done. And this is the casting that removes any soap or plaster debris that I haven't somehow gotten out with a good thorough sponge cleaning. I'm looking for surface tension. And as it starts to dip down, it's absorbing the water out of the clay, leaving a clay rind on the interior. I'll keep topping it off until I can see a visible rind on the pour hole edge. That will tell me that the casting has an adequate thickness, and then I can begin to drain the casting, which leaves a hollow shape of the figurine. You can't tell, but I had to punch a little hole in this guy because he's hollow. If I had fired him solid, he would have exploded in the kiln. There's his little air hole. So now it's a boring waiting game. we'll speed this part up. We're just waiting for the clay to congeal. Meanwhile, these are my tools. I have a fettling knife. I have a sculpture tool for cleaning out the pore hole to drain thoroughly. I have a tool for punching the air hole, a nice rubber silicone scraper, and a sponge for cleaning my mold after I'm done. At this point, you can see the rind is starting to form. If I use my tool, I can get a more accurate idea of how thick it is. And just for reference, here was the bisque that I had to do a lot of work on. And you can see it's a little bit thicker because I anticipated having to modify the legs and everything. So we're ready to drain this puppy. First, we're just going to get a little bit out just to start, because I need to clear out that hole. There it goes. Sculpting tool. Just a little bit. I've got a lot of clay out of the way. The goal is to break the vacuum and let the free material on the inside start to drain out. This is why handmade crafts involve a lot of patience. Are you bored yet? If I were to just let this gravity pour, it's very likely that the material would congeal and I'd end up with a semi-solid piece, which would be ruined. Oh yeah, that's good and flexible. This time lapse has been about, almost 4 hours. There is our pore hole. We're going to set that aside and save it, because part of it's going to be used to plug the opening through which the slip drained out of our figurine. Turn your volume down. That little pop shows me that it broke free. Compressed air, make sure that legs don't tear off. Nice and clean. Just as good as if it was a production casting. Awesome. I can see little chill mark lines. That's the very dry mold getting wet clay poured into it a little too slowly. I will have to pour faster and thinner next time. But as this is a clean out casting, none of that matters. I can use this body for testing or just recycle the clay. There's very little soap residue on him. I did do a good job, I guess, on cleaning out the hot glue on inside. Ta-da! Oh, he makes a very cute little Fjord horse. So people are like, hey, don't you ever clean that stuff out of your molds? The answer is yes, very, very carefully. I don't want to touch my fingerprints on the inside part because any hand oils I introduce could cause the plaster to block clay absorption. And we don't want any resist, so I always use a tool to get the big chunks. And then a clean sponge. It only gets used on plaster molds. Never put soap on this particular sponge. Make sure that pour hole is clean for the next time this guy gets used. And that's the first time this mold's ever been poured. Hopefully it will make dozens of really cute little horses for the collectors. These pieces will be sold to the collector club. There's a link in the credits for the collector club if you're interested. Membership enrollment is year-round, so it doesn't matter when you join. You can think about it for a while. Ta-da! And this little guy is ready tomorrow to be poured again. You may be wondering right now, what the heck? What do we do with this? There's a giant hole in his side. That's ugly. Rest assured, we have a solution. This pour hole, there's a nice big chunk of clay right here that we can cut. I'm going to make a nice pour hole sized cookie out of this. Get it in some water, flatten it a little bit, break off the weak points. I have this nice, oops, sorry, wrong finger, tool here. I have wet clay off to the side here. I'm going to scrape off the little chunk of plaster. That was from drilling out the original pour hole. It was a little bit of debris there. Now, I just put a little bit of moisture there and a little bit of the original slip that the horse was poured in. Ta-da! We need to look at his legs and make sure that they're properly straight. Sometimes when you demold, the legs get pulled off to the sides. So we're going to blend this down. Take off the excess. There it is. It's almost invisible now. Now there's a few extra bits of flashing that I'd like to remove before he dries. If I don't remove this, the drying action can pull the leg crooked. So I want to make sure to remove any of that suspension that might pull it. Drawing has its own set of physics that you have to kind of plan for. And if you're still with me at this point, you might actually have what it takes to make pottery yourself, because this is boring. So the bits are removed that we don't need. Flatten a couple hooves. He's got minimal seams, so he's actually pretty good. There's a tug right here on his forearm that needs to be corrected. I'm going to have to reopen the mold and look at where I went wrong and use a tool to carve this seam better. And the goal is to always make your work look invisible when you're done. And remember, this is a junk horse, and this is the amount of care that I'm putting into him. I don't know how to not be careful and thorough with them. So again, he's a clean out casting. You can see the little bits of mold soap, that whitish sheen, and then the tiny little horizontal stripes are chill marks. These make this piece not adequate for sale, but it is a very good starter horse. And then one of the things that our hobby, or our pottery, has started doing is to hide the firing gas escape hole. We on the boy horses, we hide it in the sheath because that's actually like a hole in the horse. So it's not a big disturbing hole in its belly. So in keeping in with that, all done. Wow, it's a good little horse.
How am I qualified to add a Fjord horse to the HR line? I'm kind of known for my ceramic fjords from before I was Hagen-Renaker. I think Ole Hagen, one of the namesakes of the brand, would appreciate having a Scandinavian breed in the product line. I also recall that John Renaker, one of the founders, followed trends to better market the pottery. Fjord horses, or ponies to you non-Norwegians, are trending, and that would catch John's attention. This is an earlier edition I designed and produced recently. I have done several Fjord editions, one of them much larger, the Canute. There is even a Canute model on a presentation base in the Royal Collections of Norway. This seated guy is much smaller, but he has all of the stripes in the correct places. The eel stripe that transitions from black to black again, the brown smudge marks above the eyes, and the markings that go from brown to black on the ears. On the HR product, this is red done. Fjords come in 5 registerable colors. I think we'll start with the red done because this test came out so handsome. He's just a peach.
Thank you for hanging out with me as we explored the mold for the little fjord. I can't wait to see bunches of these in the shelves. Talk to you later. Bye.
Here we see the end result of all that work, the first batch of Yule Juvel, the red dun fjord from Hagen-Renaker, Tennessee.